For 14 years I was the perfect daughter who never missed a Saturday lunch, until I overheard my parents and spoiled sister plot to drain $250,000 from me, and that was the day I took back my money, my power, and my life. I always thought consistency was a virtue. For 14 years, I never missed a single Saturday lunch at my parents' house. 14 years of carrying homemade desserts, arriving punctually at 11:30, kissing mom's cheeks, and giving dad a hug. 14 years of being the available daughter, the one who always shows up, always remembers birthdays, and always says present when called. That Saturday in October, I was holding a Sicilian lemon cheesecake I had made the night before, the same one I always brought when I wanted to impress. It had a buttery cookie base and a creamy topping with that touch of lemon zest that Mom always praised. I had woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make the perfect glaze, the kind that shines when light hits it at the right angle. At 31, I had an established routine. I work as a financial manager at a mid-sized company in Denver, Colorado, recently promoted, actually, something I had barely managed to tell the family before they changed the subject to talk about my younger sister Jennifer's problems. I live alone in a condo on the 23rd floor with a mountain view. I pay my bills on time and have savings that have grown consistently over the years. The family always treated me as the one who solves everything. Car problems? They call me. Need someone to pick up grandparents at the airport? I show up. Financial emergency? Well, I always had a good job, right? I carried this role with a kind of silent pride. I was the one who found solutions, the one who never failed, the one who kept everything running. When I parked in my parents' driveway that Saturday, I was especially excited. I had gotten an incredible discount on mascarpone cheese, and the cheesecake had turned out perfect. I could see through the living room window that everyone was already there, Dad sitting in his brown leather armchair, Mom in the kitchen stirring something on the stove, and Jennifer sprawled on the couch with her phone in hand, as always. I was almost ringing the doorbell when I heard voices coming from the half-open living room window. Not that I intended to eavesdrop, it was just a coincidence that I stopped to adjust the plate with the cheesecake and ended up hearing my own name. She always falls for this emergency talk, was Mom's voice coming from the kitchen. Sarah is really dumb. I froze there on the porch, the cheesecake balanced in my hands. It's not dumbness, it's that she believes we're a real family, Jennifer replied, and I could hear the sarcastic smile in her voice. She still thinks we care about her as a person, not just as, an ATM, Dad completed, and they all laughed. Well, at least she has money. I need you guys to help me convince her today. $250,000 isn't little money, but if we do it right. My breathing failed. $250,000? I've already thought of a strategy, Mom continued. First, we say we need to renovate the kitchen. You know how she is, a perfectionist. She'll love to help with that. Then, if it's not enough, we invent a medical emergency. She never questions when it's about health. And if she suspects? Jennifer asked. She won't, Dad answered with certainty. She never questioned anything before. Remember the $35,000 she gave for your emergency last year? Didn't even ask what it was really for. And the $15,000 she lent me for the investment? She signed the check right away. I remembered. Of course, I remembered. Jennifer had called crying, saying she had credit card problems and would lose her apartment if she didn't pay immediately. I didn't hesitate, I transferred the money right away. And Dad, he had said he found an incredible investment opportunity but needed initial capital, just until the end of the month, he had promised. Neither of them had paid me back a single penny. The problem is she's getting smarter, Jennifer said. She asked some strange questions last month about when I was going to pay back. That's why we have to act fast, Mom replied. Before she starts connecting the dots. Connecting what dots? Dad asked. That our dear Jennifer here has a little problem with online games and owes a fortune to the IRS, Mom sighed. And that we're all screwed if she doesn't get this money. My world collapsed. Problems with games? IRS? I always knew Jennifer was irresponsible with money, but this? She'll pay, Jennifer said with a confidence that made me nauseous. She always pays. It's really pathetic, actually. Always trying to prove she's a good daughter, a good sister. As if money could buy love. They laughed again, all three of them. Well, at least she's good for something, Dad said. Couldn't get a husband, didn't give us grandchildren, but at least has a fat bank account. I was shaking. The cheesecake slipped from my hands and splattered on the porch floor, the perfect glaze spreading across the bricks like a yellow and white stain. Did you guys hear something? Mom asked. I backed away from the door in panic, trying not to make noise. My heart was beating so hard I was sure they could hear it. I managed to get to the car without being seen, but my hands were shaking so much it took me 3 attempts to get the key in the ignition. I drove to the nearest mall and sat in the parking lot for 2 hours, crying. I sent a message to Mom saying I had an emergency at work and couldn't make it to lunch. She replied with a heart emoji and, "That's okay, honey. We'll see each other next week." Next week, when they would try to convince me to hand over $250,000 to solve my spoiled sister's problems. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake going over every conversation, every request for help, every loan I had made over the years. I started adding up in my head, 35,000 for Jennifer, 15,000 for Dad, plus 10,000 to fix the roof of the house, 5,000 for Mom's medical emergency. The list seemed endless. More than $100,000, maybe more, all of this over 5 years, always with promises of repayment that never materialized. And now they wanted another 250,000. I wasn't just the available daughter, I was the daughter they kept around to bleed financially when they needed to. I was the pathetic one who believed money could buy love. But while I was there, sitting in the darkness of my apartment, looking at the city lights below, something changed inside me. The pain transformed into something colder, more calculated. I was a financial manager, for God's sake. I knew how to protect assets. I knew how to build walls. And for the first time in my life, I was going to build walls around my own money. Monday morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I called the bank as soon as it opened and scheduled a meeting for the same day. No, it's not an emergency, I told the attendant. It's strategic planning. During lunch, I was sitting at the bank manager's desk with a handwritten list in front of me. I wanted to move all my money to a new account at a different bank. I wanted to activate security alerts for any movement above $1,000. I wanted to remove anyone who had been added as an emergency contact. May I ask the reason for these changes? Asked the manager, a middle-aged man in a navy blue suit. Asset protection, I replied, using the language I knew from work. I identified some vulnerabilities in my financial profile. He nodded as if this were perfectly normal. And maybe it was for people who hadn't spent their entire lives being naive. While he processed the transfers, I took the opportunity to change all my passwords, bank, credit card, investments, even my Netflix account. Anything my family might have access to was blocked. When I left the bank, I felt like I had come out of a bunker, protected, safe. My phone rang 3 times during the afternoon, Mom, Dad, and Jennifer. I let all the calls go to voicemail. On Tuesday, I sought out my supervisor, Helen, a woman in her 50s who had always treated me with genuine respect. I told her a condensed version of the situation, that I was having family problems and needed guidance on how to protect myself professionally. Have you thought about moving? She asked, direct as always. Not that I want to lose you, but sometimes physical distance is the only thing that works with toxic family. Move where? Well, it happens that our Seattle branch is looking for someone exactly at your level. Same position, salary 15% higher. She smiled. It's 3 hours by plane from Denver. Seattle. I had never seriously considered moving, but the idea seemed incredibly attractive at that moment. Would you talk to them for me? I asked. I'm already dialing, she replied, winking at me. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I had ignored 27 calls over 2 days. The text messages started on the second day. Mom, honey, why aren't you answering? I'm worried. Dad, Sarah, I need to talk to you about an opportunity. Call me. Jennifer, hi, sis. I have news to tell you. Call me. I archived them all without responding. On Wednesday, Jennifer finally managed to find me. She showed up at my office at lunchtime, wearing a floral dress I recognized as being very expensive, too expensive for someone who was supposedly broke. Hi, sis, she said, throwing herself in the chair in front of my desk. Are you avoiding me? I'm busy, I replied, continuing to type on the computer. Okay, but I need to talk to you about something important. She leaned forward with that dramatic expression I knew so well. I kind of got myself into trouble. What kind of trouble? Well, you know how I am with money? She laughed nervously. I kind of have some problems with online betting. And the IRS is on me for unpaid taxes. I owe a lot of money, Sarah. I stopped typing and looked directly into her eyes. How much? 250,000. The same amount I had heard on Saturday. What a coincidence. Jennifer, I said calmly, do you have a gambling problem? Her face changed. The vulnerability mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something calculated behind her eyes. It's not really a problem, she said. I just, bet more than I should have, but that's not the point. The point is I need your help. And if I can't help? Don't be ridiculous, Sarah. Of course, you can. You have plenty of money. How do you know how much money I have? Another hesitation. Well, you have a good job, live alone. It's obvious you have savings. Jennifer, do you know I already gave you $35,000 last year? That was different. Different how? It was a loan. I'm going to pay it back. When? I can resolve this situation. That's why I need the $250,000 now. I leaned back in my chair. Let me understand. You want me to lend you $250,000 to pay gambling debts and IRS problems, using as collateral the $35,000 you already owe me for a year? You're making this sound worse than it is. I'm making this sound exactly like it is. Jennifer changed strategy. Tears appeared in her eyes, and she started speaking slower, softer. Sarah, I'm your sister. Your only sister. I wouldn't ask this if it wasn't desperate. I could go to prison. Maybe you should have thought about that before creating federal problems. The words came out of my mouth with a coldness that surprised me. Jennifer was silent for a moment, clearly shocked. You're not being serious. I'm completely serious. But you always help me. You always help the family. I always help the family. Past tense. Jennifer stood up, and I could see anger forming on her face. You can't do this to me, Sarah. I'm your sister. Exactly. You're my sister, not my financial dependent. Wait until Mom and Dad know how selfish you're being. They already know. Know what? That you owe $250,000. That you guys plan to manipulate me to get this money. That you think I'm dumb and pathetic. The blood drained from her face. You heard? I heard everything on Saturday. I was on the porch waiting to ring the doorbell when you guys were planning how to deceive me. Jennifer stood there for a long moment, just staring at me. Then she tried one last card. Okay, maybe we said some things we shouldn't have. But you know we love you. You know it's family. No, I said. Family doesn't do this. Family doesn't call you pathetic and laugh at you behind your back. Family doesn't plan to manipulate you to get $250,000. Sarah, please. You can leave now, Jennifer, and you can tell Mom and Dad I won't be coming to Saturday lunches anymore. She left, slamming the door. I should have felt guilty, but all I felt was relief. On Thursday, Mom showed up at my office. She was dressed in that blue coat she always wore when she wanted to look respectable, and her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying. Sarah, honey, she said as soon as she entered. We need to talk. About what? About Jennifer? About family? About what you're doing. What am I doing? Abandoning your sister when she needs you most. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman had given birth to me, raised me, taught me to walk and talk. She had also called me dumb and pathetic, had planned to manipulate me for money, had laughed at my naivety. Mom, I said, did you guys think I was dumb enough to fall for the kitchen renovation story? Her face collapsed. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You guys planned to convince me to give $250,000 to solve Jennifer's gambling problems, first with the kitchen story, then with an invented medical emergency. We didn't. She always falls for this emergency talk. Sarah is really dumb. Those were your exact words. Mom started crying for real now. Honey, you don't understand the pressure we're facing. Your sister could go to prison. And that's my problem? She's your sister. Exactly. She's my sister, not my daughter. Not my financial responsibility. But you have the means to help. I have the means for many things. That doesn't mean I have the obligation. Mom sat in the chair, defeated. You've changed, she said. You're not the same person anymore. You're right. I'm not the same person you guys thought you could exploit indefinitely. We weren't. Don't insult me by pretending it wasn't exactly that. She was silent for a moment. Then she looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, almost as if she were seeing me for the first time. So that's it? You're going to let your family destroy itself? I'm going to let my family face the consequences of their own choices, just like any responsible adult should do. And us, your parents? Don't we mean anything to you? The question hurt more than I expected because, despite everything, I still loved them. But I finally understood that love wasn't enough when there was no respect. You mean a lot to me, I said. But I finally understood that I don't mean anything to you except as a source of money. That's not true. When was the last time you guys asked how I was? When was the last time you celebrated any achievement of mine? When was the last time you treated me as a person, not as a solution to financial problems? She couldn't answer. Exactly, I said. So don't talk to me about family. Family goes both ways. Mom left without saying anything more. That afternoon, I received a call from Helen telling me the Seattle position was mine if I wanted it. I accepted right away. By the end of the week, I had already started organizing my move. Not that it was complicated. I had always been an organized person, and my life fit into a few boxes. But there was something liberating about packing my belongings, as if each object I put in the boxes was a piece of my old life I was leaving behind. That's when Dad decided to make his final move. He showed up at my apartment on Saturday morning, unannounced. When I opened the door, he was holding flowers, a bouquet of cheap daisies from the supermarket. Hi, honey, he said with that smile I used to love. I thought we could talk. About what? About all this nonsense. About you avoiding the family. I let him in but didn't offer coffee or invite him to sit. He stood in my living room, looking at the stacked boxes. Are you moving? I am. Where to? Seattle. Seattle? He seemed genuinely shocked. Why the hell would you go to Seattle? Work. But you have work here. Better work there. He put the flowers on the kitchen table and turned to me. Sarah, this is all about the money, isn't it? About what you heard last Saturday. It's not about the money, Dad. It's about respect. Respect? You guys don't respect me. You see me as a bank account with legs. That's not true. So tell me, when was the last time you guys invited me to something that wasn't a disguised request for money? He was silent. When was the last time you guys asked about my promotion, about my life, about anything that wasn't related to how much I can contribute financially to this family? We ask. You don't ask. You pretend to listen for 5 minutes before changing the subject to some problem of Jennifer's. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter, but apparently that only matters when you guys need money. Dad sat on the couch, suddenly looking much older. You don't understand the pressure we're facing, he said. Your sister is in serious trouble. She could go to prison. And you guys think that's my fault? It's not your fault, but you can help. Can you help me with something, Dad? Can you explain to me why it's my responsibility to clean up Jennifer's messes? Language, Sarah. Don't change the subject. Answer the question. Because that's what family does. Helps each other. Okay. So when was the last time Jennifer or you guys helped me with anything? We help. With what? When? Well, when you were looking for an apartment, You gave me unsolicited opinions about how I should spend less and invest more. That's not help. And when I was having problems at work, you told me to stop complaining and be grateful to have a job. Again, not help. Sarah, you're being unfair. Unfair? Unfair would be me having spent 31 years of my life being treated like a personal ATM and still continuing to smile and bring cheesecake every Saturday. You weren't treated like an ATM. Wasn't I? So why, every time I show up, does someone have an emergency that needs money? Dad didn't answer. Do you know how much money I've already given to this family in the last 5 years? It's not about money. More than $100,000. $100,000 in loans that were never paid back. $100,000 in emergencies that magically appeared every time I got a bonus at work. You never complained. Because I thought that's what family did. I thought you guys loved me. We do love you. You love my bank account. That's not true. So why did you guys laugh when Jennifer said I was pathetic for trying to buy love with money? The silence stretched for a long moment. You heard that? I heard everything. Every cruel word, every laugh, every plan to manipulate me. Dad lowered his head. We didn't want you to hear. You didn't want me to hear, or you didn't want me to know, Dad? Which is it, Sarah? Are you guys sorry for saying those things, or sorry I found out? We're sorry for hurting you. But you're not sorry for thinking those things. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. I sat in the armchair across from him. Dad, I need you to understand something. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm not trying to punish you guys. I'm trying to save myself. Save yourself from what? From continuing to be a person who believes she has to buy love. From continuing to be someone who is valued only for what she can give, not for what she is. But you are valued. Am I? So why do you guys only call when you need money? To ask for favors, to solve problems, to do something for you guys? But that's normal. Normal would be you guys calling to ask how my day was. Normal would be you guys remembering my birthday without me having to remind you. Normal would be you guys being proud of my achievements instead of immediately thinking about how they can benefit you. Dad was silent for a long moment. So that's it? He asked finally. You're leaving and never talking to us again? I'm leaving because I need to learn to live without feeling like I have to buy the approval of people who should love me unconditionally. We do love you unconditionally. No, Dad. You love me conditionally. The condition is that I continue being useful. That's not true. Then prove it. How? Stop asking me for money. Stop asking me for favors. Stop treating me like a solution to problems. Treat me like a daughter. I do treat you like a daughter. You don't. You treat me like an employee you can count on to solve things. Sarah, you're being dramatic. Dramatic? You guys literally plan to manipulate me to get $250,000. If that's not drama, I don't know what is. He stood up. Well, I see you've already made your decision. I have. And there's nothing I can do to change your mind? There is. You guys can start treating me like a person who deserves respect instead of a bank account that occasionally needs emotional validation. That's not how we see you. That's exactly how you see me. He walked to the door, then turned around. You know your sister could go to prison, don't you? I know. And you're okay with that? I'm not okay with that, but it's also not my responsibility to prevent it. She's your sister. And I'm her sister. Where was she when I needed emotional support? Where was she when I was going through problems at work? Where was she when I was having trouble dating? You never asked for help. I shouldn't have to ask. Family should notice. Family should care. We do care. You care about what I can do for you. That's not the same thing. Dad opened the door. I hope you change your mind, he said. I hope you guys change your attitude, I replied. After he left, I continued packing. But something had changed. The conversation with Dad had clarified some things for me. They really didn't understand what they had done wrong. For them, I was being dramatic and selfish. For me, I was finally learning to value myself. 2 weeks later, I was at the airport waiting for my flight to Seattle. I had sold most of my furniture and sent the rest of my things by mail. I was carrying only 2 suitcases and a carry-on bag. While waiting in the departure lounge, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Sarah. It's Mom." She was calling from our neighbor's phone. "Hi, Mom. Honey, please don't board that plane." "Why?" "Because we need you here. Because you're our daughter, and families stick together. Families that respect each other stick together. We do respect you. You don't. But maybe one day you'll learn. Sarah, please." "Mom, I need to hang up. My flight is calling." "Wait, before you go, I just want you to know that I love you." "I love you, too, Mom. But love without respect isn't enough." I hung up the phone and boarded the plane. During the flight, I looked through the small window and saw Denver shrinking below me. Somewhere down there was my family, probably dealing with the consequences of Jennifer's choices. Somewhere down there was the house where I had spent countless Saturdays, always trying to be the perfect daughter. But I wasn't running from them. I was running toward myself. Seattle was different from everything I knew, rainy when Denver was sunny, mountainous in a different way, with an urban energy that excited me. My new apartment was on the 32nd floor of a downtown building with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Puget Sound. The work was challenging in a good way. My new colleagues treated me as a respected professional, not as someone who was always available to solve their personal problems. I had important responsibilities, interesting projects, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was growing professionally. But best of all were the weekends. Saturdays without mandatory family commitments. Saturdays where I could wake up late, have brunch alone, explore the city, or just stay home reading a book. On the first Saturday, I decided to make a cheesecake, not out of obligation, not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to. I made the same Sicilian lemon one I used to bring to lunches in Denver. But this time, I ate it alone, standing in my kitchen, looking at the city view. It tasted like freedom. 3 months after moving to Seattle, I started receiving updates about my family through my cousin Rachel, who lived in Phoenix. Apparently, things weren't going well. Jennifer had tried to borrow money from other relatives, but everyone had already heard about her gambling problems. No one wanted to lend. She had tried to sell some things but didn't have much of value. The deadline with the IRS was approaching. Mom and Dad had tried to get a loan using the house as collateral but were denied due to bad credit history. Apparently, it wasn't the first time they had financial problems. "They're saying it's all your fault," Rachel told me during a call. "That you abandoned the family when they needed you most. And what do you think about that?" "I think you did the right thing. I always thought it was strange how they always turned to you to solve financial problems." "Did you know, Rachel?" Everyone in the family knew. They weren't discreet about it. They always talked about how you had a good job and could help with emergencies. And no one ever said anything? It wasn't our business. And you never seemed to mind. Because I didn't understand what was happening. Well, at least now you understand. 6 months after the move, Rachel called me with more serious news. "Jennifer was arrested," she said without beating around the bush. "What?" "IRS tax evasion. She's going to be federally prosecuted." I sat in my armchair, looking at the sound outside. I felt a strange mixture of emotions, sadness, relief, and something that could have been guilt if I didn't know there was nothing I could have done to prevent this. "And Mom and Dad?" "Devastated. They're trying to get money for a good lawyer, but they don't have it." "Did they try to sell the house?" "Yes, but they owe more than it's worth. Double mortgage, apparently." "Double mortgage?" "They took a second mortgage a few years ago to cover other debts of Jennifer's." "You didn't know?" "I didn't know. Another thing they had hidden from me." "Rachel, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think I should do something?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Help with the lawyer, lend money." "Sarah," Rachel interrupted me. "Can I be brutally honest with you, please? You've already given them more money than they deserve. You've already sacrificed more of your own happiness and financial stability than any daughter should. And even so, even after all this, they continued treating you like a money-making machine. But she's my sister. And you're her sister. Where was she when you were being treated as the family's personal bank? Where was she defending you?" "You're right. Jennifer created these problems alone. Your parents allowed and even facilitated her behavior. None of you are responsible for cleaning up this mess. But what if she goes to prison? Then she goes to prison. And maybe, finally, she'll learn that actions have consequences." After that conversation, I made a decision. I wrote a letter to my parents, not a cruel or vindictive letter, but a letter explaining my position clearly and calmly. "Dear Mom and Dad," I began. "I heard about Jennifer's situation and imagine you're going through a very difficult time. I want you to know this saddens me deeply, but I also want you to understand why I cannot and will not help financially. I explained how years of being treated as a solution to financial problems had affected me, how discovering they planned to manipulate me had broken my trust, and how I needed to learn to be valued for who I was, not for what I could give. I love you, I finished the letter. But love doesn't mean accepting being disrespected indefinitely. When you're ready to treat me as a daughter instead of as a source of money, I'll be here. Until then, I need to take care of myself. I sent the letter and received no response. A year after the move, Jennifer was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. My parents lost the house and moved to a small apartment in a cheaper neighborhood. Rachel told me these updates, but they seemed increasingly distant from my new life because I had a new life, a life where my weekends were mine, where my money was mine, where I was valued for my work, my personality, my intelligence, not for my ability to solve other people's financial problems. I had made real friends, co-workers who invited me to dinner because they enjoyed my company, not because they needed something, neighbors who stopped to chat in the elevator because they were genuinely interested in how I was doing. I started dating, nothing serious yet, but men who treated me as an equal, who split the check at restaurants, who didn't see me as a potential sugar mama. And every Saturday, I made cheesecake, sometimes to share with friends, sometimes just for me, but always because I wanted to, never because it was expected. 2 years after the move, I received an unexpected call. It was Mom. "Hi, honey," said the familiar voice, but more fragile than I remembered. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" "I'm well. And you guys?" "We're surviving. Jennifer gets out of prison next month." "That's good. Sarah, I wanted to call you because I finally understand." "Understand what?" "Why you left. Why you stopped helping us." "I understand now." "What made you understand?" "These 2 years without you. These 2 years having to deal with everything alone. I realized we never learned to be a real family because we always had you to solve everything." "Mom, no. Let me finish. I realized we treated you badly, that we used you, that we never valued you the way you deserved." I was silent, not knowing what to say. "I'm not calling to ask for money," she continued. "I'm not calling to ask for help. I'm calling to apologize." "Thank you," I said simply. "And to tell you that I love you. Really, not because you always solved our problems, but because you're my daughter, and I should have shown you that much sooner. I love you, too, Mom. Could you ever forgive us?" "Mom, I forgave you guys a long time ago. Not for you, but for me. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or going back. It means letting the anger go. And does it mean that maybe one day we could have a relationship again? Maybe. But it would be a different relationship. A relationship where I'm respected. A relationship where I'm not expected to solve financial problems. A relationship where I'm valued for who I am. I would like that very much. I would, too. Can I call you from time to time, just to know how you are?" "You can, but Mom, if any call is about money or problems, I'll hang up, and I won't answer the next ones." "I understand. And I won't come to Denver for holidays anymore. If you guys want to see me, you'll have to come here." "That's fine. And if Jennifer wants to talk to me when she gets out of prison, she'll have to apologize to me first. Real apologies. Not the kind of apology that's actually a disguised request for help. I'll talk to her. Don't talk to her for me. Let her make her own decisions." "Okay." After I hung up, I sat on my balcony, looking at the sound. Seattle's sky was doing that thing it does, changing from gray to blue to something almost golden, all in a matter of minutes. I didn't know if Mom was being sincere or if this was just another strategy. I didn't know if our relationship could be fixed or if I wanted it to be. But I knew one thing: I had learned to live without them. I had learned to value myself. And that, by itself, was worth every difficult moment of the last 2 years. 6 months later, Jennifer sent me a letter, a handwritten letter, not typed, which surprised me. "Sarah," it began. "I know I have no right to expect you to read this, but I needed to try." She explained how prison had changed her, how she had stopped gambling, she had no choice, obviously, and how that had given her clarity about how much she had lost because of the addiction. She wrote about how she had thought about our relationship and realized how badly she had treated me. "I was always jealous of you," she wrote. "You were always the responsible daughter, the one who had everything together, the one who always solved everything. And instead of admiring that, I resented it. I resented that you were everything I couldn't be. So when I discovered I could use that I could manipulate you to get money, I did. And I convinced myself it was okay because you could afford it and because family helps family, but what I was really doing was punishing you for being better than me, and that's unforgivable." She didn't ask for money in the letter. She didn't ask for help. She didn't even ask me to respond. She just apologized. "I don't expect your forgiveness," the letter ended. "I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did and that I'm sorry. Really sorry." I kept the letter in a drawer and didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I wasn't ready. And maybe I never would be. And that was okay. 3 years after the move, I met someone. David was an architect who had moved to Seattle the same way I had, fleeing a toxic family situation in Portland. We understood each other in a way I had never experienced before. He never asked me to lend him money. He never assumed I would pay the bill because I had a better job. He valued me for my intelligence, my sense of humor, my ability to make perfect cheesecake. On our first Thanksgiving together, we made our own dinner instead of visiting our families. It was the first Thanksgiving of my life where I didn't feel guilty for not being somewhere else. Do you miss them? David asked me while we washed dishes. I miss the idea of them, I replied. I miss the family I thought we had, but I don't miss the actual dynamic. That makes sense. And you? Same thing. I miss having a functional family, but I don't miss my dysfunctional family. Maybe we can make our own functional family. I would love that, I said. For years after the move, Mom came to visit me in Seattle. It was strange to see her in my space, in my apartment, in my new life. She seemed smaller than I remembered, more fragile. But she didn't ask for money. She didn't mention problems. She just wanted to know about my life. You seem happy, she said while we had coffee on my balcony. I am happy. I remember when you were little. You always seemed to be trying to make everyone happy. Always trying to be the perfect daughter. I still try to make people happy. But now I include myself on that list. I should have taught you that. You couldn't teach what you didn't know. I know now. Do you? I know that love isn't just giving. It's respecting. It's valuing. It's seeing the person as they really are, not as you want them to be. That's a good start. Mom stayed 3 days. We didn't talk about Jennifer, who was still trying to rebuild her life after prison. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about the past much more than that. Instead, we talked about my work. She seemed genuinely interested, about Seattle, which she loved, and about David, whom she approved of. When she left, we hugged at the airport. Can I come again? She asked. If you want to, I want you to, then come. 5 years after the move, David proposed to me. We were on our balcony, watching the sunset over the sound. When he got down on one knee, he said, Sarah, you taught me what a real family is, a family where people choose each other every day, where love comes with respect, where each person is valued for who they are. David, I want to build a family like that with you. I want us to be the example of how healthy relationships work. Yes, I said before he even finished asking. Yes, I want that, too. At our wedding, Mom was there. Dad, too, although he still had trouble looking me in the eyes. Jennifer wasn't there. She had sent a card but didn't feel ready to see us in person. But also there were my friends from Seattle, my coworkers, the people I had chosen to be part of my life, my new family. During his speech, David talked about second chances and chosen families, about how sometimes you have to save yourself before you can love someone right. Later that night, when we were alone in our apartment, still dressed for the wedding, I made cheesecake, the same Sicilian lemon one I used to make years ago. Why do you still make that? David asked. Because now it tastes like real love, I replied. Not obligation. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. I never really liked cheesecake before I met you. And now? Now it's my favorite dessert. Why? Because you make it with love. Love without expectations. Love without strings. Real love. 6 years after the move, Mom called me to tell me Jennifer had gotten married to someone she met in a support group for gambling addicts. They were building a simple but honest life together. She wants to talk to you, Mom said. She can call me if she wants. Would you answer? Maybe. It would depend on what she wanted to talk about. She doesn't want money, if that's what you're worried about. I'm not worried about that. I just don't know if I'm ready to let her back into my life. That's your choice. It is. And for the first time in my life, you guys are respecting my choices. We learned. I hope so. Jennifer never called me, and that was okay. Some bridges burn completely, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. 7 years after the move, David and I had our first daughter, a girl we named Emma. When she was born, I held her in my arms and promised her she would never be treated like I was treated. Her value would never be measured by what she could give to other people. She would be loved unconditionally, respected always, and valued for exactly who she was. She's perfect, Mom said when she came to meet her granddaughter. She is. You're going to be an incredible mother. I'm going to try. You're going to be better than I was. Mom, no. It's true. You already are. You learn to value yourself. You can teach her that. Mom was right. I could teach Emma things no one had taught me, how to set boundaries, how to recognize manipulation, how to value herself, how to love without losing herself. 8 years after the move, I was making cheesecake on a Saturday morning when Emma, now 1-year-old, was playing on the kitchen floor. David was reading the newspaper at the kitchen table. Mommy, why do you always make cheesecake on Saturdays? Emma asked. She had started talking early. Because I like to, I replied simply. But why do you like to? Because it reminds me that I can make beautiful things just because I want to. Not because someone expects it. Not because someone needs it, but because I choose to. Is that good? That's very good. 10 years after the move, I finally completely understood what had happened. I hadn't run away from my family. I had run away from the version of myself that didn't know how to exist without being useful to other people. The girl who brought cheesecake every Saturday, hoping that food could buy love, had died. In her place, a woman had grown who knew her own worth, who chose her own relationships, who gave because she wanted to give, not because she felt she had to give. I still made cheesecake on Saturdays, but now when I put that first spoonful in my mouth, the taste was of freedom. It was the taste of finally having learned the difference between being loved and being used. And that difference had saved my life. There are stories that aren't just stories. They're mirrors of life. If this one moved you, help us keep telling others that also deserve to be heard. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more stories like this, and join us. Thank you very much and have an excellent day.